Welcome in, Bills Mafia, and welcome to our Week 10 preview of the Minnesota Vikings and Buffalo Bills game this Sunday, November 13th at 1 p.m. inside Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. I am your host and founder of the Go Bills podcast, Brett. Glad to be with you on this Saturday evening. Looking forward to another week of Bills football. Last week, the game was not as good as I expected, but this is another week. We're back for another week, and let's get this thing rocking and rolling with our Week 10 preview of the Bills game. So last week, the Bills played the New York Jets, had a little bit of some struggles, but this week, the Bills have the 7-1 Minnesota Vikings against the 6-2 Buffalo Bills, and Buffalo had some struggles. They lost 20-17 in the game. The Bills are hampered this week with the injury bug. Quarterback Josh Allen is coming off of a UCL injury, and his status for the game is uncertain. But the good thing for the Bills is that they did not elevate Matt Barkley from the practice squad. They did elevate two players, Xavier Rhodes, as well as another player as well was elevated. And that's good news for the Bills. I'm glad that they didn't elevate quarterback Matt Barkley, and it looks like that Josh Allen is going to be playing in this game. So that's the good news for the Bills. Now, the Bills do play a team that is playing very good right now, and the team they're playing, Minnesota Vikings, are having a very good season. And I just got the other player that the Bills did elevate. That was running back Duke Johnson that they elevated as well. So another running back for the Bills to use into their arsenal. Now, Xavier Rhodes did play for the Minnesota Vikings for a few years, so there might be some revenge in this game. Now, this is the game where there's tons of players that have a history with each team. For the Bills, players that used to play for them in Harrison Phillips, shout out to him. He's been a very good person for the Bills off the field, and we wish him well, just not this week. But coming back to Buffalo, and this is going to be a good matchup, and I pray that the fans give him a standing ovation because he's an excellent ambassador off the field for what an organization wants to see. So I hope that Buffalo does the right thing and they can make sure that they give him a standing ovation. For the players on the Bills that played for the Minnesota Vikings, three players, Case Keenum played for the Vikings. He was a starting quarterback, if you remember the Minneapolis Miracle, where another player for the Bills, in Stefon Diggs, was acquired from the Minnesota Vikings, and that was for a pick that got the Minnesota Vikings Justin Jefferson. So that's another thing that was good for the Bills. And then Xavier Rhodes as well, who was elevated to from the practice squad to the active roster as well. Red, White, and Bills said, let's do it. Cannot wait. We're going to have a great week. It's going to be a good game, and I'm looking forward to it. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the Red, White, and Bills as well. You can find them on YouTube and Instagram at Red, White, and Bills, and they do amazing things, and we collaborate quite a bit. Sean's doing awesome things for their show as well, so don't forget to subscribe to them as well. So let's go back to last week against for the Minnesota Vikings. We'll talk about what they did last week. They took on the Washington Commanders, and Justin Jefferson, wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings, scored on the opening drive. He was quiet for the rest of the first half, but he did have a lot of success in the second half, where he had a 47-yard reception in the fourth quarter, and that helped set up the field goal for the Vikings. He finished the day with 7 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown. So good numbers for him. Dalvin Cook, running back for the Minnesota Vikings, was shut down on the ground, totaling 17 carries for 47 yards. And the only good thing that he did for the Vikings was he had a 12-yard touchdown grab, which really helped them with 7 minutes and 46 seconds left on the clock in the fourth quarter to tie the game. Now, recently acquired tight end TJ Hawkinson had 9 catches for 70 yards, but finished the game as the leading receiver for them. And he looks like he's a steal. I know the Red, White, and Bills talked about it on their podcast as well, but they got a steal in Hawkinson for 2 years coming up. He's on his rookie deal. He was able to come to the Vikings and rival team as well. And he looks like he's going to have some great numbers. Now, for the most part, the Commanders did a really good job of keeping the players that are the superstars for the Vikings in check. But towards the end of the game, things didn't seem to work. The Vikings started to get things clicking, and they ended up losing the game. And a main reason for their loss was the stars started to come out for the Vikings. As for the Bills, this was a different story for them. They played the New York Jets, a division rival, and now we're starting 0-2 in the division. But Buffalo played a good game, played their hearts out, but it was a tale of two halves. The Bills were tied at 14-all at the half. And then in the second half, Buffalo just struggled left and right. And you saw some interceptions from Josh Allen. You saw the run game on defense didn't look the same. They were missing some gaps. They were not hitting the right holes. They're missing tackles. There was angles that they weren't pursuing at the right time. Jaquan Johnson had some plays where he wasn't able to come down with the tackle. And you saw some big carries. And that led to Buffalo giving up 5.1 yards per carry, which is a big number. And if you look forward to this week, the Bills are going up against a running back in Dalvin Cook, who is the brother of James Cook. And this is a matchup where Buffalo is going up against a bigger and electric running back. There's going to be some struggles. Probably you're going to see the run game struggle a little bit, but I hope that Buffalo can get it fixed early. And if the Bills aren't able to get it fixed, it's going to be another option for the Vikings. And they have some elite receivers. They have a really good tight end. And now you can open up the playbook with the running game as well. And that's going to be another way for the Bills to struggle. But I think that Buffalo is going to get it figured out. They're going to get it started, and it's going to be great. And you're going to see a totally different run game defense for the Bills. So let's dive into the Week 10 preview of the game. But first, actually, we will start with the injury reports for both teams. And give me a second to just pull up the injury reports for both teams as well. The injury report, starting with the Minnesota Vikings, is starting cornerback Cam Dantzler Sr. is going to be out with a ankle injury. And then good news for the Bills on offense, they won't have to go up against Dalvin Tomlinson. He has a calf injury as well, so that's good news. But it looks like that Adam Thielen's going to be playing for the Vikings, as well as Garrett Bradbury, both of them have ankle injuries. So they will both be playing. But Buffalo won't have to face Dalvin Tomlinson. And that's another interior defensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings that Buffalo won't have to go up against, which is good news for the Bills. And that should allow Buffalo to establish the run a little bit more in the game as well. Now let's go back to the preview of the game. And we will start with the Minnesota Vikings. Actually, we will start with the Buffalo Bills. I'm sorry. The Bills defense is fourth in the NFL with allowing 299.6 yards per game. They're first in holding teams down to 15 points per game, which is a great number. The offense for the Bills is picking up 416 yards per game. And the big reason why that they are picking up these numbers is because of the MVP level that Josh Allen has been playing at. Now, while the last 6 quarters have not been the same, Buffalo isn't looking as good in the last 6 quarters. A big reason why Buffalo is winning all these games, and they are 6-2, is because of Josh Allen. He has 2,403 passing yards this season, a 74.4 quarterback rating. He has 19 touchdowns, and he does have the 8 interceptions, so we hope that that number can stay there, and he can keep the touchdowns up. Now, if Josh Allen doesn't play in this game, they're going to have to rely on former Viking Case Keenum to start. And while Keenum has only thrown 7 passes this season, he did start 7 games last year for the Cleveland Browns. So he did have some good numbers. He had a 65.3 completion percentage, as well as 3 touchdowns and an interception. Now, if Josh plays, he is coming off of his worst performance last week against the New York Jets. He had a 46.8 quarterback rating. He had the lowest number of yards last week and 205. And he also had 2 interceptions as well. Now, he did have the 2 rushing touchdowns, but 0 touchdowns in the passing game, which is uncharacteristic of Josh Allen. So hopefully we can get those numbers up, get them back to the numbers that we want to see, get some passing touchdowns in there as well, and we can come out of this game with a win and a very big lead, which is going to be huge. While Josh is averaging 300 yards per game and has 19 touchdowns on the season, he needs to do a better job of taking care of the ball. And if Josh does take care of the ball, that's going to be a big reason why Buffalo will win this game. But if Buffalo is not able to take care of the ball, they're going to struggle, and that it's going to create opportunities for this elite offense that the Minnesota Vikings have. The Vikings pass defense has allowed a 92.4 quarterback rating this season to quarterbacks. They are giving up 67% of their completions, and they also have 11 touchdowns on the season. So let's get into the matchups for each team, starting with the Buffalo Bills on offense. We'll start with the biggest matchup, which is going to be Patrick Peterson versus Stefon Diggs. And last week, Diggs is going up against his former team, and he has looked spectacular over the season, averaging over 100 yards per game, which is a great number for a number 1 receiver. But he's going up against a elite cornerback in Patrick Peterson, and he's been going up against elite cornerbacks each and every week. But this week he's tasked with going up against Patrick Peterson, who is in charge of stopping Stefon Diggs like Sauce Gardner did last week for the New York Jets. This is another elite cornerback that he's going up against, and he's allowing under a 60 quarterback rating this season. And last week against the Jets, Diggs did have some success. He had 5 receptions for 90 yards. Some of that was on DJ Reed. Some of that was on Sauce Gardner. But he had the 5 receptions for 90 yards, but he was also targeted 10 times. And there was plays where he wasn't able to come down with the ball. Another key matchup is going to be the run game, or the run blocking for the Bills, going up against the the run defense for the Vikings. Now, the Bills last week had an abysmal time running the ball. They weren't able to do that very good, but they were able to run the ball 12 times. They only had 39 yards. And a big reason for this is because the Aaron Kromer offensive line did not have success against the defense of the New York Jets. There's elite talent on that defense for the Jets, and I think that's a big reason why they struggled in that game. But we need to become more aggressive with the Aaron Kromer offensive line. There needs to be more aggressiveness in the trenches, especially in the interior offensive line. Need to do a better job of establishing themselves in the trenches and opening up holes for Singletary, Cook, and Nyheim Hines as well. Now, a good number for the Bills that they can work on is the quarterback running, which has been a struggle for the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have given up 3 touchdowns this season to quarterbacks, and they are averaging 5.2 yards per carry to running back or to quarterbacks over the season. Now, they did go up against some good quarterbacks in Justin Fields as well as some other quarterbacks. But if the Bills are going to try and win this game, they're going to have to rely on the legs of Josh Allen and let Josh do what he does best. And that will also not allow him to use his arm, which he does have that UCL strain. But if he can utilize his legs in this game, that's going to be a big reason why Buffalo will win this game. And if they do average that 5.2 yards per carry, they're going to have a lot of success. As for the pass blocking for the Bills, they've done a good job, but last week was some struggles for the Bills. They've done a good job overall this season of keeping Josh on his feet and allowing him to have enough time to make the correct throws. But last week, Buffalo struggled, giving up 5 sacks as well as 8 quarterback hits. And that offensive line did not do a good job whatsoever. In my terms, they had about a C average on their as an overall group as far as the run game and the passing game. So if they do a better job this week, I think that Buffalo will be in this game. And they're going up against a really good defense in the Minnesota Vikings, who have an elite pass rusher in Danielle Hunter, who is a very good weapon for the Vikings, as well as Zadarius Smith. There's two good pass rushers for the Vikings, and they've been they have 24 sacks this season. They're able to come away with pressure with 4-man fronts, dropping 7 into coverage, which is an area where Josh Allen struggled with last week. That was mostly what the Jets were able to do, was run that 4 linemen and have 7 people in coverage. Josh got uncomfortable with that. They tried to force throws down the field. That's where the interceptions came from, and it caused a lot of issues. But if Buffalo is smart, they take what the defense gives them and make sure that Josh has the right plays in play in order to minimize the amount of mistakes that Josh will make. Now, the pass rush for the Minnesota Vikings is very good. They have a 30.7 pass pressure rating this season, and they're able to come home with sacks with 4 men in rushing the passer. They've only blitzed 17.2% of the time this season. Red, White, and Bill said you got to stop that pass rush, which is a big key for the Bills to win that game, and I totally agree with that. And I think that's going to be a big reason why the Bills will win this game, stopping that pass rush. As for the defense for the Bills, they're going to be tasked with going up against 2 elite receivers in Justin Jefferson as well as Adam Thielen. And they're going to be tasked with going up against these receivers with probably 3 cornerbacks. I know the status is not very sure what's going on with Tre'Davious White, but the belief is that he's going to be back this week. And they also elevated Xavier Rhodes as well. So he could possibly be in play as well. But I do have another solution for what Buffalo can do with Xavier Rhodes. So I will say that the 3 cornerbacks that they're going to utilize on these 2 elite receivers is going to be White, Elam, and Jackson. So I don't think that they're going to utilize Rhodes on these receivers. But this is the matchup of the game for me, is the wide receivers for the Vikings going up against the cornerbacks for the Bills. And it's a great matchup. There's going to be heavily contested balls. Their Bills are going to have to utilize some press coverage, and they're going to have to utilize man coverage because there's so many different weapons that the Vikings can hurt you with. So they're going to have to rely on the man coverage, and they're going to have to do a good job of that as well. So I think that that's going to be a way for the Bills to win this game. But the biggest thing for me is, while I think that Buffalo has a great cornerback in Tre'Davious White, he's coming off of the injury with the ACL injury, and I don't feel comfortable with having him going up against Justin Jefferson, especially in his first game back. I think that Buffalo should be smart. They should put Dane Jackson on Justin Jefferson and allow Buffalo to utilize the other cornerbacks in Kaiir Elam as well as Tre'Davious White going up against Adam Thielen. And I think that that's going to be the best matchup for them. Dane Jackson is allowing a 63.5% quarterback rating this season. He'll be tested with going up against Justin Jefferson. And I think that this is an area where Buffalo will have success. I know that Justin Jefferson is an elite cornerback or wide receiver in this league, but Dane Jackson has been a sleeper all year. He's been a sleeper last year. He's only allowing about 500 yards this season, or over the past 2 seasons. And he's been very good. He hasn't allowed a touchdown in his career. And I think that he just has the good matchup against the elite the elite wide receivers. So I feel comfortable with having him in coverage. Now the Bills are going to have some other issues. They have to go up against TJ Hawkinson, who's a great tight end as well. They also have Jordan Poyer, who's out, and that's going to be a struggle as well. But I think Buffalo is going to rely on Damar Hamlin, and this is where I think that Xavier Rhodes is going to come in. They're going to put Xavier Rhodes at safety, and that'll allow a veteran player to come in at safety, and they'll utilize that, and it'll allow them to be able to utilize him in pass coverage and have another cornerback out there while also having somebody who's a good tackler be able to come up in run coverage and stop the run. Now, the Bills' pass defense has been electric this season. They've done a really good job holding quarterbacks to a 76.4 quarterback rating this season. They have 11 interceptions, and they're averaging 6.6 yards per attempt, which are great numbers. Now, why the Bills' defense has been struggling is because the run game has not been the same as the pass defense. So the Bills are going up against the Vikings offense, who the Vikings are not really running the ball this season. They're 24th in the NFL in running, but the Bills have been averaging 5.1 yards per carry last week against the Vikings. And this is another area where the Vikings can hurt us, is having Dalvin Cook get all these runs involved, as well as Alexander Mattison as well. There's two good running backs for the Vikings going up against a defense that's been struggling in the run game, not being able to figure out what's going on. The Bills have been playing the nickel base all year, and maybe it's time for Buffalo to think about moving into that 4-3 defense base and utilizing another linebacker like Terrell Bernard, putting him into coverage as well. Now, Buffalo did play last week without Matt Milano, which hurt a lot as well. But Buffalo could utilize that 4-3 base and utilize that. Now, the Bills haven't utilized that base hardly at all. The last time that they utilized that base was when they played the New England Patriots in the playoffs in that game in the snow. So if Buffalo is smart, maybe you need to say, hey, man, let's figure this out. Let's get this straightened out, and we'll utilize the 4-3 base, go back to the basics, and just get it figured out and stop the run. And I think that that's an area where Buffalo should do, is use that 4-3 base. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below, so let me know your thoughts on that as well. But Buffalo is going to be going up against two really good running backs in Dalvin Cook, who has been averaging 4.6 yards per carry this season. He has 76 yards per game and 5 touchdowns, as well as Alexander Mattison, who has been the complimentary back for Dalvin Cook and has done a really good job as well. The Bills have struggled immensely on toss plays out of the backfield. They have not been able to hit the right holes. There's been some issues with guys overshooting and over pursuing. So I think that that's going to be an area where Buffalo will figure that out. They'll get it straightened out, and there will be more success from the team in this week as well. Now, this opens up to the keys to the game. And there's many keys to the game, but for me, the first one, and this is the most important one, is stopping the run. And we've talked about it a lot on the show already, but stopping the run is going to be the way that the Bills are going to stay in this game, and they're going to win this game. The Bills have an elite pass defense. They do a really good job in pass coverage. They're only allowing 6.6 yards per attempt, and that's going to be a way for Buffalo to have success. Is getting an early lead, relying on Josh, getting that lead early, and then making quarterbacks have to throw on this defense, which has great pass rushers. They have a great defense that's able to get pressure on the quarterback and create third and longs that are areas where teams struggle in, and they are not able to capitalize on third downs, and then it stalls the drives and gets Buffalo back on the field. Last week, the New York Jets had a great game plan. They were able to run the ball on us. They were able to take time off the clock, which didn't allow Josh to get on the field as much. And they eliminated the amount of drives that Josh was on the field, which was a very smart game plan, and I commend them for what they did. But Buffalo needs to do a good job of stopping the run on defense and creating the third and longs and allowing the defense to do their thing and create third and longs where Buffalo will have good coverage, and then they maybe force a turnover or the drive stalls. And that'll be the way that Buffalo will win the game. Now, the next thing is for Josh Allen or whoever is at quarterback, is to be smart with the football. And you've seen over the last 6 quarters, Buffalo has a ton of turnovers. They're losing the turnover battle, and that's a big reason for why they're losing these games. If Josh is smart with the football, take what the defense gives them, and they do the right things, they will come out of this game with a win. And that leads to the next thing, is making sure that the defense stays in their gaps. This is the big issues that you've seen. There's been arm tackles. There's been missed tackles. They're over pursuing. They're not able to get to the right holes. And I think that was because Matt Milano was out, as well as Jordan Poyer. But we need to get the right angles. That you need to get to where you need to be and get to your gap and be able to stop the person that has the ball. And this is not only for the run game, it's also for the pass game as well. You've seen times where they're not in the right holes, and guys like Jaquan Johnson aren't where they're supposed to be. And that's a big reason for why Buffalo has been struggling over the last 6 quarters as well. So make sure you're able to tackle, make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do, and we'll come out of this game with a win. And lastly, this is for Josh Allen, and it's very important. Take what the defense gives you. Josh has been pressing the ball down the field way too much over the past few weeks. And if Buffalo is smart as a quarterback and the quarterback coach for the Bills, you have to tell Josh to just take what the defense gives you, get that 3-yard pass over the middle for an easy completion to, a running back like Nyheim Hines or Devin Singletary. It might allow the Bills to get a big play going. It might allow a player to make a juke, and then you take it upfield, and there's a big carry. Or you just get some confidence in your quarterback, and you're able to get him going and just get the little stuff over the middle. It takes time off the clock, and you're gaining confidence. You're moving the ball downfield, going in the right direction. But don't force the ball down the field and press the ball as much as you were the last few weeks. Now, I think that Josh does an incredible job of making sure he presses the ball down the field, which is a great aspect. But there's times where he just takes it too far. And that's a big reason why Buffalo has been struggling over the last few weeks. And I think that he will get it figured out. You heard him in the last week. He was disappointed in his play. He said some words that I can't say on the show, but he said he played like garbage, and he is disappointed in how he played. And I think that's a big reason why he will come out of this game, if he does start, and he'll have a great game. And this leads us to our score predictions for the game. I have the Bills winning this game 24-14 over the Minnesota Vikings in a heavily defensive game for the Bills. They will hold the Vikings to 14 points. I don't think that Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen will have a touchdown, but I do have TJ Hawkinson having a touchdown in this game, as well as Dalvin Cook having 1 touchdown as well. But I think Buffalo will come out of this game with the win. They're going to do a better job of stopping the run, doing a better job of maintaining their gaps, and doing what they're supposed to do. I have Josh Allen going for 285 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, as well as Diggs going for 165 yards. Singletary will have 54 yards. Hines will have 39 yards, and Davis will have 62 yards. Now, previously we did do the Minnesota Vikings injury report, and I wasn't able to get to the Bills injury report, so I'm going to go back to the Bills injury report real quick. I want to make sure I put that in here. I apologize for not putting it in here when we did the Minnesota Vikings, but we'll go back to the injury reports real quick. And the Bills will not be playing Jordan Poyer as well as Greg Rousseau. And I should have said this before, but Kaiir Elam is doubtful for the game. But there still is some ability for him to play. He hasn't been ruled out yet. And I think that he might play, but he might be limited. So I do think that if he does play, it's going to be a good matchup. But if he doesn't play, this might play into the fact that Buffalo is going to play Tre'Davious White. And you have Xavier Rhodes move into the 3rd cornerback spot. So that's going to be good for the Bills. As far as the 2 first-round picks for the Bills in Josh Allen and Tremaine Edmonds, they're questionable, but both are expected to play in this game. And there's a lot of players that will play in this game in Spencer Brown, Dane Jackson, David Queensberry, Cam Lewis, Matt Milano, and Mitch Morse are all expected to play this week. So the Bills are getting healthier, which is a good sign. But we're still missing a couple key aspects for the Bills, especially on defense, missing Greg Rousseau and Jordan Poyer. But we do expect to be healthy probably next week. So that's good news. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on all social media. You can find us on YouTube Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And don't forget to tune into our show next week, or this week, actually, tomorrow on YouTube and Instagram. You can find us on that starting at 12:30. We'll do our pregame show, talk about the inactives for the Bills, and get you ready for the game at 1 o'clock. Then we'll have our halftime show on Instagram and Instagram and YouTube as well. And then have our post-game show right after the Bills game, where after it concludes. We'll have that going for us, and that'll be a great show as well. And don't forget to follow us, our other pages that we have been collaborated with. We've collaborated with the Red, White, and Bills, as well as Nickel City Mafia. So don't forget to follow them as well, where you can have a chance to see myself as well as Nickel City Mafia do their thing. There's Jake as well as Mike from the Nickel City Mafia. They're doing amazing things on their show as well. And they're great Bills Mafia fans. We have our group chat that we're doing as well with Red, White, and Bills, and Sean with the Red, White, and Bills. And they're doing a great thing. So don't forget to follow them as well. You can find the Nickel City Mafia on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Nickel City Mafia. And you can find Red, White, and Bills on YouTube as well as Instagram at red_white_bills_. This has been the Go Bills podcast, and we will see you tomorrow for our pregame show on YouTube and Instagram. And as always, don't forget, Go Bills. And as always, God bless.